Tim and Yoshi back at it for another Tim and Yoshi show on this beautiful day in the freest place in America, Arizona. I mean, I know, those of you in Texas might disagree, but your gun laws are nowhere near as free as us. Those of you in Florida may disagree, but guess what? I mean, I went to Florida and Texas and was hassled about not wearing masks in the past when I was able to walk around freely in Arizona. So you guys can suck it. Just kidding. Obviously, not trying to make fights with the other freedom states, because there's so many other bad states that are out there. But anyways, absolutely loving being here. I'm a little bit disappointed I'm not headed to Acapulco, but it's really hard to justify trying to head to a place where you've got to wear a mask to go to a freedom event. And then I know in the state of Guerrero down there, from what I've heard, it's like absolutely awful with people having to wear a mask and anyways, it's very hard for me to go to this freedom oriented place that I'm at right now, where it's been business as usual for a year now, to head to a place where it's not as free. So so I'm gonna miss the people that aren't there, well, myself, and missing the people that I guess that are there that I will not be seeing. But anyways, we're gonna cue to a video right now where it was a councilwoman, and I think it's the head of the councilwoman in Ottawa, to see what they've got to say.
We are on day 8 of this occupation. Our city is under siege. This group is emboldened by the lack of enforcement by every level of government. They are terrorizing our residents, torturing them with incessant honking, threatening them and preventing them from leading their lives. People cannot go to work or open their businesses. They cannot sleep, walk, shop, go to medical appointments, or enjoy their neighborhood. This group...
Ladies and gentlemen, what you're hearing is the Ottawa City Council that last week called for the $11 million in GoFundMe to be taken and given to leftist causes. And they announced that. They said, we'll decide who to give it to, and stole the money.
We all need to work together. This is not something this country has ever seen before. I understand Mark Carney referred to it as sedition today. I think that's exactly what it is. This is treason. This is way bigger. This is a group of well-polished, professional people that are trying to overthrow the government of democratically elected government of this country. This is not, it's not a target on the city of Ottawa. It's much bigger than that. It's really an insurrection. It's an attack on our democracy. It's an attack on our federal government. It has a lot of international elements to it. The money is flowing from the US. Right. This is right out of the Trump playbook.
Yeah, so my favorite part about that has to be when she says like that it's underneath siege. I mean, do these people have any idea what the word siege really means? I mean, they're sort of acting like it's like some sort of sacking of Rome or something like Visigoths, when it's really just a bunch of cars honking their horns. So I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The hyperbole used when it's like these people are terrorizing us, and they're honking their horns. And then you've got Trudeau saying it's just a bunch of white supremacists. And speaking of white supremacists, we'll flash on screen a article from The Economist magazine, which, for those who don't know, The Economist was started by the Rothschild family. I believe it's 51% owned by them. It's either 50 or 51. And they did have the article in 1987 that was it showed basically like what looked like almost like a Bitcoin, and then there was a phoenix sort of rising from the ashes, and then said, is the world ready for a one world currency? And then 33 years later, they had their GovCoins article that came out actually last May, and actually I bought that one. I own that one. And so it's just very fitting that like the Rothschild family that's literally behind this high-tech modern slave system, was pretty much behind the other slave system too, but controlling all the money, that these are the ones say, what's the quote? It's the charm of cryptocurrency for white supremacists. And it's just, Gandhi has had a saying, where I believe it was Gandhi, where it said, first they ignore you, then they fight you, then they win. So obviously we're in the fighting stage, and it's not gonna be easy. I mean, no one ever said the Great Reset's going to be easy. No one ever said, you know, there's not going to be different attacks that get launched at, you know, different freedom solutions. Obviously, one of the freedom solutions is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and particularly some privacy currencies. And it's crazy that, and again, not making recommendations on this, but like Monero, I checked today, it was like number 46. So, you know, it's barely in the top 50. And so you got one privacy coin in the top 50. And, you know, I do expect these to get bastardized. I do expect them at some point to be made illegal. But, you know, eventually when everyone is on a CBDC, when everyone, you know, is forced to, you know, have the government mark, you know, at that point, you know, I think the privacy coins will take off. So unfortunately, I guess the bullish case is that stuff gets so bad that the average everyday, you know, debt slave out there walking around, you know, getting into fights at, actually, let's look at Yoshi right now. It's crazy. So when you've got, you know, like the average everyday, you know, person getting into a fight over at the Golden Corral over steaks, you know, starting to realize, you know, that they've been in this, you know, boiling pot, and now they're at the point where it's, you know, actually boiling, and, you know, starting to fry them alive, that, you know, maybe even they will start to wake up to us. And just look at what was going on with the Canadian truckers when they had, I forgot the amount that got up to, it was like 10 million, you know, anywhere from like $9 to $11 million that was stolen from their GoFundMe, which, you know, at this point, you know, you shouldn't be using GoFundMe. There's, you know, better options. I think there's like getfunding.com, or there's obviously Bitcoin, so you could bypass the whole thing to begin with. But then I guess if you're just sending Bitcoin to, you know, one person, who's not to say they make off with the money or something, but, you know, it just goes to show you, like, that is where things are going with the central bank digital currency. Like, that is your preview. They want to block you, they want to shut you off. The guy that's in charge of the Bank of International Settlements, Jabba the Hutt, named Augustus Carstens, he says we want the ability to shut you down, we want the ability to block financial transactions. And so we're not speculating what they want to do, they're telling us what they want to do. And so, you know what, when somebody tells you what they want to do, and it's something really bad, and it's, you know, some 400-pound fat fuck banker that runs the Bank of International Settlements, which is its own fucking country in the city of, basically outside of Basel, Switzerland. There's a good book on that. I think it's called the Tower of Basel or something like that. I've read it and I own it, but man, it's gonna drive me nuts what the exact name of that is. Oh, there's another dog over here. Don't want Yoshi to take off and see that dog. So luckily he didn't see the dog. But yeah, I think it's called the Tower of Basel. But yeah, it's its own city, just sort of, own country, sort of like the Vatican. And so that way, you know, that's a whole nother issue in and of itself. I believe we did a video, the Richard Grove video. I think we touched quite a bit on that. You know, that video is about a year ago. You can find that on timandjonshow.com, or go back through Odyssey or BitChute to locate that one, or, you know, maybe Arthur Diamond Hands can link that one down below. But yeah, so I mean, this is, you know, exactly what's going to be happening when you have a central bank digital currency. They're going to be able to shut you down. They're going to be able to turn you off. And so, I mean, I think that's another paradigm shifting moment where at that point, more people will realize what's the deal with cryptocurrencies. And I am going to get to a client question of mine, just because it would have been like way too long of an answer to have to type this out. And what I did is last week I gave it's actually probably about 2.5 weeks ago, I gave a client webinar presentation, probably the most important one I've ever given. And I'm thinking about sending it out in the next, you know, week and a half to people on the email list. So if you guys want to see what I deem as the most important presentation I've ever give, you guys can go to timandjonshow.com, sign up for the email list, and then I will be sending it to that email list. And pretty much anyone who's signed up in any one of my lead magnets in the past, I will be sending that information out. It's not going to be on YouTube, it's not going to be on BitChute, it's not going to be on Odyssey, so it's on a private server. And so if you guys do want that, minus the Q&A part of that, I will you know, make sure you do sign up down below, because ultimately, you know, we do want to reverse what's going on. We do want to stop what's going on. We want to have a free country. We want to, you know, we want our kids to be free. And you know, one of the, I think the funnier things I saw from the Canadian trucker protest is that, you know, they interviewed a guy and it goes, "I'm here for my kids just to get back to normal. They haven't played hockey. It's been a disaster. Just give us back what we need to live again. Trudeau, Doug Ford, just listen to us," said Sam Kovac of Woodsley Ontario. So I mean, I think that that's, you know, pretty funny that, you know, you've got all these different things going on in the world, and, you know, all these freedoms being taken away in Canada, and the number one thing they basically have to say is, you know, we haven't been able to play hockey in 2 years. So, you know, that's a very, you know, Canadian type answer, and, you know, I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Like, you almost couldn't even script a probably funnier answer to all the tyranny that's going on. And, you know, unfortunately, like, most movements are very susceptible to being co-opted and taken over. You know, pretty much everything has been, you know, taken over at one point or another. I mean, you've got, you know, the Tea Party got hijacked by, like, the Glenn Beck, you know, Fox News type crowd that, you know, that started off as, you know, the Ron Paul movement. And you've got, you know, the QAnon, you know, hijacking, you know, sort of like all the pedophile Pizzagate type stuff. And again, you know, the whole Pizzagate, that's the whole thing to make it seem like the whole movement was just, you know, everything being quarterbacked from some basement. You know, I forgot the guy's name, like James Ganopoulos, or anyways, I'm not going to get into the whole thing. But, you know, that whole thing got, you know, all the Trump people, they got basically hijacked. Not all of them, but, you know, a lot of them got hijacked. You know, the anti-vax movement, you know, that's been hijacked by basically a bunch of people that want to grandstand about how, you know, awesome they are and cool they are, and don't really want to encourage grassroots movements, and don't want to encourage people to say that vaccines are dangerous because, you know, they want to, you know, they don't want to, like, scare people or upset people. Well, then not wanting to scare people or ruffle any feathers has, you know, helped get us to the fucking place we're at now. So, you know, I question, you know, how great their current strategy is going. And again, not really Monday morning quarterbacking this stuff. And you got Bitcoin that was hijacked in 2014. But, you know, before we get back to the Bitcoin hijacking in 2014, let's play a little video from Craig Reese report. And you know, he's one of Alex Jones' guys. But anyways, he talks about how there's some, actually I can't remember all the details right now. There was basically like this separatist exit movement that's going on in some part of Canada. Now they're trying to align themselves with Ottawa, but then that group is backed by Soros. And so, you know, I would be very careful of watching out for false flags, very careful of watching out for co-opting going on in that movement. But anyways, we're gonna go play a little bit of that video right now.
Our government has been in close contact with the Mayor of Ottawa and municipal and provincial officials. So far, the RCMP has mobilized nearly 300 officers to support the Ottawa Police Services and is ready to do more.
Rather than face the Canadian people, Justin Trudeau is sicking his police on them. Governments have been hiring globalist players and thugs for years. Meet Peter Slowly, known for being woke. 7 years ago, as deputy police chief, Peter Slowly said that being black made him a suitable candidate for Toronto's next police chief, and claimed a more important factor was his experience as a United Nations peacekeeper, an international police force known for raping and pillaging communities under the flag of peace. It was reported that there was much animosity when Slowly was not chosen to be Toronto's first black police chief, and a year later, he resigned. During his resignation speech, he bragged about tempting offers coming from the international private sector, and went on immediately to join the company Deloitte, whose CEO sits on the board of directors at Pfizer, and who was awarded over $40 million by the CDC to build a vaccine management system. A couple months before the COVID-19 scamdemic, Peter Slowly was made chief of the Ottawa Police. While the world celebrates the inspiring human spirit coming from the people of Canada, their own police steal their gasoline to freeze them out. Families and children. And the foundations of an incoming false flag are now being identified. Meet Peter Downing, a former cop for the RCMP who was given full pay and a clean record after a criminal conviction. Downing is the head of Wexit, an Alberta separatist movement seeking to overrule Canadian law with decrees set by the United Nations, and funded by a woman who sits on the board of the Atlantic Council. The Atlantic Council founded CrowdStrike, which ties them to Hillary Clinton. They are funded by George Soros and the Ukraine's Burisma. They are considered a threat to constitutional order by the Russian government and they fund Peter Downing's Wexit. Wexit has made itself a part of the Ottawa protests, and their connections to George Soros and the RCMP should be cause for alarm. People need to be on the lookout for state-sponsored shenanigans.
We've been told that one of the triggers or indicators where we know that they're going to physically move against us and start arresting us is when our media goes down. When all of our telecommunications devices do go down, when we go fully black, the next phase of this will be the public order units will move in on us and start kettling. This is it. If there's a media blackout of everybody that you're connected to with this freedom convoy, that's your trigger that you know something is up, and I would encourage you to make arrangements and immediately start heading to Ottawa.
Trudeau's Liberals are now scurrying to pass their new anti-hate laws, straight out of communist China, where a Canadian can be fined $70,000 and thrown in jail for up to 4 years for the crime of posting anything on the internet that the government deems inappropriate. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Craig Reese.
Yeah, so I mean, just be very careful that, you know, people don't fall for, you know, some sort of false flag or agent provocateurs or, you know, somebody trying to, you know, come in there to basically make, you know, this everything going on right now with the trucker protests look like a bunch of idiots. Just stepped on like something really sharp in my shoe, which is, you know, part of the, I guess, the hazards of doing the walk and talk. But, you know, absolutely, you know, I think out of all the videos I do, like, these ones are my favorite, obviously, without having, and even the notes are like just like little kind of like bullet points, aside from like a couple quotes, I guess, that I have in there. So, you know, I don't have everything memorized because I go through like tons of information a day. But great, just dropped the notes that I did have. But, you know, getting back to Bitcoin being hijacked, what you had was, you know, this company called Blockstream, and, you know, let me get into the client question, and hopefully I have it on here. So one of my clients, Ashley, says, she, you know, basically she seems to think there is evil afoot when it comes to crypto. She was asking me yesterday if we should be concerned about the recent Craig Wright case. So let me sort of back up. Like one of the very first crypto episode I ever did, which actually I hung out with this guy yesterday, so it's somewhat coincidental. Went to the Phoenix Open, and absolutely, you know, beautiful weather out here. So, you know, it's pretty much probably one of the best days we've had. But anyways, that quick aside, I did a video talking about, I think it was called Cryptos and Conspiracies 1. There was never a 2, it was just ended up being that 1. But, you know, we'll go link at that video. It's on my BitChute under like the crypto section. It's like the very first one, and I think it talks about like the Bilderbergs and all that. But essentially, like, without getting into every detail, you had this company, Blockstream were the ones who started funding the Bitcoin core development group. And these guys weren't necessarily, like, these were more like computer dork guys and not necessarily, you know, freedom-oriented guys. And so they got bought off for like, kind of like $70 million to fund them. And so the company that funded them was AXA, a very, well, I think the largest French, basically like insurance giant there is, like one of the largest companies in the world, AXA. And the head of AXA was Henry DeCastries, and actually this part isn't in my notes, and I'm actually taking credit as like the person that figured this out, because the first company I ever interviewed for was AXA, and then through studying Bilderberg, I just happened to know that Henry DeCastries, the head of AXA. Now, when I interviewed for them, I was, you know, 22 years old, just graduated college, and had no idea about any of this stuff. In case anyone's like, oh, see, look, here he was trying to work for the Bilderberg Group. No, I was 22 and had no idea and didn't end up taking the job. Anyway, so Henry DeCastries was the former multiple time head of the Bilderberg steering committee. So a lot of the times the past 10 years when it wasn't Klaus Schwab, it was Henry DeCastries. And so what they did is, with Bitcoin, there was a couple different solutions to try to scale Bitcoin, because they always knew when Bitcoin was first created, there was no reason to have like bigger blocks and to fit more information in there, because there was like nobody using it. So it's sort of like, you know, why drive like a stretch limo if you only have like a family of 2 and, you know, you're sort of a loner and you never go out? Like, it's like you don't really need that, it's unnecessary. or like having like a minivan or something. Like, you don't need that. And so they made it a 1 megabyte block. And so there's one group that said, hey, let's just make the block 2 megabytes, and you know, that would sort of be a good like stopgap to like basically figure stuff out. Another group's like, oh no, let's take some of the information here and go there and do the SegWit stuff and jumble stuff around, and then we'll also make it bigger at some point in the future. And I have like the full actual technical breakdown of this in the video, but you know, it gets into really nerd dork stuff that I've already forgot, which is part of the reasons why I make videos, so that way I don't have to go back and try to remember all the nuances of everything. But like at a high level, you know, basically they took a whole bunch of some of the code of here and moved it over there to be able to fit more information into the blocks. And so there's two groups of people. One group that was led by Roger Ver, who's known as Bitcoin Jesus. He wanted to just increase the size to double it. The other group of people wanted to do what I was just talking about, and that group was funded by Blockstream. And so my conspiracy theory on this is that basically Blockstream used this as a problem reaction solution because they were the ones coming out with Lightning Network, and so they deliberately, in essence, fucked up Bitcoin. They created a problem because they were the ones who were eventually rolling out the solution. So that's the classic Hegelian dialectic of problem reaction solution. It's great seeing all these kids out here who are, yeah, it's great. I got kids who want to be on YouTube apparently, so I'm just gonna keep walking. So with Bitcoin, I mean, at the Lightning Network level, it can be taken over. And without getting into like a complete overview of what Lightning is, I mean, technically, let's say there's 5 of us, we're all friends, we all go out to the bar every now and then, or we go out to restaurants or games or who knows. And so what we would do is we each throw, let's say, $100 into this channel, and then when we want to, you know, settle up at the end of the night, it's like, okay, I owe you $20, you know, John owes this person $30, and it all sort of stays on the channel, but it never actually goes to the main Bitcoin layer. And so by having this Lightning Network, it sits one layer above. So it's sort of like you're creating like your own little kitty that's like one layer above the actual Bitcoin network. So they would call this like a layer 2 solution. But then eventually, let's say a year from now, you know, we want to settle up. And so what we would do is say, okay, well, we're going to go settle things up to then bring it back to the main Bitcoin layer. And then at that point, you'd have to pay like the normal transaction fee, which hopefully would be lower anyways, because at that point, more people would be using Bitcoin or using Lightning, which I guess hopefully more people aren't using Lightning. But what my conspiracy theory that I've been talking about for a while since I found out about Lightning is that eventually Lightning Networks are going to be the banks, and that's where they're going to KYC you. Then that's where they're going to eventually try to shut you down, and that's where, you know, the evil could be afoot. And that's like one way. Another way that, you know, the evil could be afoot is that, just I guess to finish off with the Lightning Network. So, you know, you're settling up at the base layer, and at that point it would be a more expensive transaction fee. Hey, get over here. And then at that point, you know, it would be a slower transaction. So for the really fast transactions that cost next to nothing, that would be Lightning. And that's where I think they're eventually going to start, you know, that's where the gotcha is going to come in, and that's where they're going to start screwing people, is going to come from that Lightning Network. So, you know, it's important to, you know, be aware of this ahead of time. And the other thing is, like, I'm sure there's ways where you can run your own node, and you can like, I think Start9 Labs has one, and actually I know they have one because I own it, but it's even like yeah, I'm running a node, but I'm not really doing anything with it because, you know, I've been too busy. But essentially you could run it through your own node and host your own Lightning Network. But the thing is, it's not like grandma just button easy yet. And although some of these technical guys will say, oh yeah, just do this and just do that and just do this and this and that, and you know what, I'm sure if I spent enough time figuring out, I could figure it out. But I'm not really in the active business of, you know, buying and selling Bitcoin. I'm just a hodler, so, you know, I'm just, you know, stacking it, and not really that big of a deal to me. But anyways, the other side of the equation was Bitcoin Cash. But from an investment standpoint, you know, unfortunately, not everybody necessarily cares about the philosophy behind this. And so I don't know if Bitcoin Cash is the best investment, but from a use standpoint, you know, it actually does work. It actually is more like Bitcoin than even what Bitcoin is. So, you know, it is important to just, you know, understand that. I do have a video called Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash that goes over that in much greater detail when this whole Bitcoin civil war was going on in August of 2017. So you guys can check that one out. I know it's on BitChute, and yeah, and I'm 100% sure it's on BitChute. And then it's one of the videos that's like right after that Bilderberg video too that I was mentioning. So, you know, I've always been aware that there are these attack vectors, and I didn't get into Bitcoin initially because I thought it was going to be the mark of the beast. However, what I didn't realize is that it was blockchain. This is when Bitcoin was $1. Whoa. When Bitcoin was $1, I thought, you know, maybe like even less than that, I thought that it was going to be the mark of the beast. And, you know, at the time I was, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, or credit card interest payment to interest card payment at this point, and I had a bunch of stuff going on, and it was super difficult to get Bitcoin at this point, I guess, unless you knew somebody, and I didn't know somebody. So you know, I wasn't, you know, gonna go on the Silk Road to get it, and, you know, if I did get it, I probably would have went on Mt. Gox and lost it all anyways. So but, you know, ultimately everybody gets the price they deserve. But it's the blockchain technology is going to be used to enslave you. I mean, just like a gun can be used to kill you, or it can be used to defend your life. And so in this instance, the blockchain technology, if you're using the layer 1 and you're using different things where they're not custodial wallets, because the Lightning networks, like, in order, got Yoshi going crazy. So the Lightning networks right now, as they stand, like, I believe, I mean, El Salvador, they have their wallet that I think is called like Jello, or it's a cool in Spanish, whatever that word is. And what they're doing is basically it's like a non-custodial wallet, aka it means you don't hold on to your keys, meaning that, you know, basically it could be taken from you. And so that's where I think the more evil is afoot, and they're going to make it sexy and cool, and they could, you know, crash the price of Bitcoin, you know, relatively easily, or crypto, and then say, oh, we got the stable coin, and we'll, you know, you don't need to worry about the stable coin, you know, the Fed coin, because, you know, it's always gonna be backed by the dollar, and look at all these, you know, bells and whistles, and we'll give you a free this or that, or we'll give you a universal basic income. And then eventually, you know, it gets to the point where, oh, you said something the government didn't want you to say, and boom, they take your money. And she was just going crazy again. And so, I mean, there are dangers to watch out for, and it's a very nuanced question. And you're just like, if somebody said, oh, hey, I hear guns are dangerous. Well, yeah, I mean, it works both ways. And so it can be used to protect you, or it can be used to save you. And, you know, even though I'm in a nice neighborhood now, you know, usually have one now. So, but, you know, it doesn't mean that because, you know, in the hands of somebody that does something wrong, it doesn't mean that they should all be banned. Just like because, you know, Bitcoin blockchain technology could be used to enslave you, it can also be used to free you. And if you don't do this, and you don't have these hedges in place, it's going to be used to enslave you. And so you might as well get on, you know, part of the freedom train aspect of this too, but then also have things like gold and silver, and have other hedges, and, you know, have firearms, and have lead, and have, you know, food, and, you know, and do these other things, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of different ways this can shake out. No one has a crystal ball, and, you know, it probably will come down, you know, at some point to, you know, some sort of food crisis, you know, because it always does. But, you know, I hope that helped answer the question, because, or, you know, probably left you maybe with even more questions than answers. But then you got even like above layer 2, you'd have something like a Cash App or PayPal, which actually now is using Lightning, I think, as of like a couple days ago. So but I mean, it's not a custodial wallet anyways. So, you know, and I actually, I mean, I do use Cash App. It makes it easy. You know, I do have like some stock in Square, or Block, I guess as it's called now. So, you know, just a full disclosure on that. But, you know, ultimately people do get the price that they deserve. And, you know, I guess I didn't deserve the dollar price because I was, you know, too busy doing other shit. And, you know, even though I told some people, you know, some very wealthy people at it, you know, you know, about $30. So, you know, I didn't deserve that price. I tried getting in the second time it hit 1,000. I'm like, and it was like 1,100. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait till it goes back down to 1,000. And then never did. And I think I got in like 1,800. Still good, but not. And this is, we're talking like barely anything. You know, just wanted to test it out. Wanted to know how to use how all the wallets worked. Wanted to use how to go from like one place to another. And actually, I was actually a bigger fan of Ethereum. Because at the time there was, you know, I've been basically shut down from Facebook right out of the gates. I was kneecapped immediately on Facebook and shadow banned, you know, before anybody else, pretty much in November of 2016. And it was, you know, went from reaching millions of people on that platform to literally nothing overnight. And so I was like, okay, how can we mitigate against this? How can we protect ourselves? How can we be on a platform that can't just push a switch and screw you? And then that's when I found out about Ethereum and found out about how this like whole decentralized network. And now Ethereum does have its own problems, and it's got massive scaling problems, and there's supposed to be Ethereum 2.0, and we do have competitors, and a lot of risk associated with that too, just like anything. But that's why you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. Again, if you want to see what I deem the most important client webinar I've ever given, and well researched, that kind of lays out the battle plan, go to timandjohnshow.com, go into the email list, sign up for that, and then we will be sending that out. Probably sometime in the next like 2 weeks. So, because obviously, I want to make sure it goes to the clients first, and they've already had it now for a couple weeks, and just realized that my shoe is untied right now. But yeah, and so maybe another way that they sort of, the evil could be afoot in Bitcoin is that, speaking of shoes and my shoes untied and evil afoot, I have talked in the past about, interest rate risk, and if you have $1 million in a 10-year bond, rates go up 1%, now your underlying value is 900,000, rates, you're in a 30-year bond, rates go up, and nobody should be in a 30-year bond, but you're in a 30-year bond, rates go 1%, now your $1 million is now $700,000, yeah, pretty painful. What if rates go up 2%? Okay, now you're at like 380,000, and you gotta wait 30 years to get your money back, and by then your money's not gonna be worth anything, or you're gonna be dead. So I think what they'll do is there'll be some sort of crisis along those lines, and then to make you whole, they'll give you the money back in a CBDC, but then it has to sort of like stay in that ecosystem, especially if you were in a bond that was there for 30 years. So if you're in a bond for 30 years and the principal goes, rates go up 2%, and that's still like a pretty rosy scenario, and or rates go up 3% and you basically lose all of your money, I think the Federal Reserve will come in, they'll have a stable coin, they'll have a Fed coin, and at that point you'll they'll make you whole on your money, but then now your money will be in that system, and because it was already a 30-year bond, they're going to sort of maybe force you into that, or they'll have some other new bond, they'll have some sort of other new slave grid system to entice you into that, or when there's some big calamity, they'll have the universal basic income being paid out in a Fed coin, and that actually was the first initial plan for the 2020 CARES Act, where the Maxine Waters version of that bill actually did call for a essentially Fed coin to pay that out, the initial $1,200, but then that was just a trial balloon to see if anybody would bitch. I was the only person that basically bitched out there. I don't even know anyone else that's even reported on that, let alone bitched about it. I mean, there's probably others, but same thing with the Bilderberg connection to Bitcoin. Like I remember emailing Tone Vase about that, and then and actually I met with an Axe guy, and I got like a free Axe sweatshirt, and I ended up giving it to Tone Vase to sort of troll him, and thought maybe I'd get a rise out of him, or he might get mad, and he actually liked it. So I failed in that regard. And yeah, I mean, as much as I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist and I do believe in crypto, I mean, I do think that most people's holdings should be in Bitcoin, and I am very bullish in the space, but there's only one Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin, for what it's trying to do, being, in my opinion, more of like a chaos hedge, digital gold, which it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be, a peer-to-peer electronic cash, but sort of is what it is now. That that nothing else is going to take that over from like a proof of work mining standpoint, but there will be others, like decentralized exchanges, so for every attack there's going to be, Bitcoin being the honey badger of money and crypto being the honey badger of money, that there's going to be answers to this. And so they already have decentralized exchanges that already amount to like tens of billions of dollars of volume a day. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure like in the summertime it was like tens of billions of dollars, unlike Uniswap and SushiSwap and PancakeSwap and TrustSwap and all these other ones. But the problem is there's high fees to do this stuff, and we're still like in its infancy of what can really be done on that space. But long term, I am very bullish on that. But okay, the government goes and shuts down all the exchanges. Okay, well now there's decentralized exchanges, which is why I saw an article about the IRS saying that they want to basically try to crack down on these decentralized exchanges, but then also start giving money, or not giving money, giving information to local law enforcement about what citizens and their tax cattle in their jurisdictions are trading cryptocurrencies, and how they can you know, try to combat terrorism and all this other stuff. And, you know, if they wanted to combat terrorism, you know, they'd be going after the Federal Reserve. I mean, those are the real terrorists. Or in Washington, D.C. I mean, that's where everything emanates from. And actually, the dollar is what most terrorists actually use. They're not using Bitcoin. You can track Bitcoin. It'd be stupid to use that. And who knows, they'll probably have some like anti-vaxxer Alex Jones listener that, you know, that they staged as a patsy when they were going to use Monero or Pirate Chain or doing something, some privacy coin to, probably Monero, to bastardize all that and tie it in with terrorists and things like that. So I mean, just like they're trying to say that, you know, white supremacists are, you know, using cryptocurrencies, or, you know, the white supremacists are like the darlings of, or cryptocurrencies are like the darlings of, you know, for white supremacists. I mean, they wouldn't have to resort to this level of propaganda if the situation was hopeless, and they wouldn't have to resort to all this propaganda if, you know, they ultimately thought they didn't have to do it. And so when you start calling people white supremacists and you start, you know, being at the point where you've got to just use all this hyperbole, I mean, obviously they're driving people away from their message. And, you know, especially these truckers. I mean, these truckers are not, you know, hardcore anarchist guys like me. I mean, they're, you know, guys who just want to fucking play hockey and have their kids play hockey again and watch hockey and you know, not have to, you know, be slaves and not have to be forced vaccinated, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know. But when you're going and you're, you know, scapegoating them and you're calling them white supremacists and Islamophobists and anti-Semites, which is weird that you're an anti-Semite and Islamophobist and racist and sexist and every other ist that's out there, you know, you're going to drive more people to these ideas of freedom. And speaking of freedom, I did see a well, I mean, you know, somebody wrote the word freedom, you know, in graffiti. I forgot where it was at, somewhere in Canada, and they're like, look at this anti-vax messaging, what they've done. And so now, you know, if you write the word freedom, now you're an anti-vaxxer. And so, you know, they really are driving more people to us, you know, every day. You know, I wasn't always on this side of things. Matter of fact, or the first time I was ever on the radio, I actually made the statement, oh, I'm not some like anarchist or anything. And, you know, after about another 2 months and before Trump even got in office, I already was at that point. So, yeah, it just really comes down to how much understanding of this people have, where in the matrix they are at understanding this level. And, you know, I came from the Republican side of things, even though I went to a liberal arts school in New York, and I just knew that was bullshit, but I wasn't really exposed to this information. And then, so I knew all that was bullshit, and then, you know, got into the Ron Paul Revolution, probably like in 2009, so I missed the 2008 go around, because, you know, when you go to liberal arts school, they don't actually tell you that, you know, that there's, you know, guys like Ron Paul, and that there's, you know, third parties out there besides the Green Party. But, you know, it's on me. I could have looked it up, but, you know, this is also pre-smartphone too, so mind you for that. Then I was like, oh, I'm never voting for the Republicans ever again after they railroaded Ron Paul. And then, you know, I was going to go for Gary Johnson, and then, you know, Bill Weld, his VP, started being anti-gun. So then, you know, I was just like, you know, screw it. You know, Trump's not CFR. He's not Goldman Sachs. He's, you know, talking about vaccines in a negative way. He's, you know, talking about 9/11, you know, talking about the Federal Reserve. I mean, again, I'm not like an idiot, so I'm not going to hold my breath in this stuff. And so I was, you know, willing to give it a shot, because, you know, it really kind of pissed off all the people that pissed me off. And like literally immediately started, you know, calling him out, and then having all the MAGA people hating on me for all the stuff that they should have been listening to me all along. But, you know, sort of is what it is on that front, and it, you know, led me to where I am today, and knowing that, you know, things are too far gone. It doesn't matter if you elect, you know, Jesus. You know, you're not, like, no one can fix what is coming right now. But, you know, we have solutions. Cryptocurrency is one of those solutions. There's no way to turn around the debt. Money is debt, or currency is debt. So the only way to get currency into, come on, Yoshi. The only way to get currency into existence is to create treasury bills and bonds. Root word of bonds is from bondage. You know, you're creating, and the Fed is buying all the mortgages. The root word of mortgage would be mort, which is, you know, and basically in French it stands for death contract. So, yeah, they're putting these bondages around our ankles. They're, you know, absolutely, you know, psyoping us 7 ways to Sunday, and with this whole, you know, total information, you know, basically full spectrum dominance that's going on. And for me, you know, having cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, having privacy coins, having gold and silver, having, you know, some commodities that are out there, having you know, actually some cash on hand, because I actually do think the dollar will get stronger during the initial phases of this, which is very controversial and deserves its own video on this. You know, I think all that stuff's important. But anyways, I am running out of batteries on this. Make sure to head to timandjohnshow.com to get the get that client webinar that I'll be sending out here in a couple weeks. We are hiring other people right now that are coming on board. So we're not hiring new people right now. We're just new people that are already in the system that are coming on board as we speak. And so because of that, I have lowered my minimums. So it was $500,000, and now I've lowered it to $50,000. And basically, you're still working with me, but you know, as I have to train these people. So, you know, sort of getting the best of both worlds, and you know, sneak in at the lower level, and where we get you into actual crypto IRAs, get you into things we just mentioned. And you know, and a lot of times I make different recommendations where it doesn't even involve people having money even with me. But you know, it's, you know, I'm not trying to get everything, but you know, there's pieces of the pie, you know, in terms of like having some gold and silver at your home that's not in an IRA, and having some Bitcoin that's not with me, that's, you know, at home. It makes sense. And obviously, you know, having ammo at home, you're not going to have that with me. It makes sense. And you know, this is not cookie cutter advice for every single person. You know, everyone has different needs. You know, it's the best thing to do is actually invest in yourself, and to, you know, create some sort of like cash flow business where you know, you can do your job from anywhere. And you know, that's probably going to be the most important thing that, you know, people really should do. So anyways, everyone's going to have different needs. Everyone's going to have different outcomes and strategies and things that they need to do, and that's things that we can help people work through. But anyways, libertyadvisor.com, libertyadvisorshow.com, timandjohnshow.com. They all can sort of bring you back to the same place. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Tim and Yoshi signing out. And it is actually pretty hot today. It's, I don't know, it's got to be like 80 right now. Absolutely beautiful. Don't come here. I'm sick of the real estate prices going up. And I'll talk to you guys later.